Hello and welcome to 101 Sports NCAA Tournament Bracket Breakdown. Over the next hour, we will bring you all you need to know about the NCAA Tournament so that you can fill out your very own bracket. Joining me tonight are the experts, Julian Council, Josh Markowitz, Alex Ofori, and Connor DelPrete. These are the guys that will give you all the information you need to know over the next hour. There's always a lot of debate over the number one seeds going into the tournament, but this year it seems like a lot of that debate came down to the very last minute, these conference tournaments last week, but we ended up with Kentucky, Villanova, Wisconsin, and Duke. Julian, are these the right number one seeds?
Absolutely. I see no debate. Virginia, a lot of the season looked like they were going to be the number one seed coming to ACC. There's a debate whether Duke or Virginia would get that. One of them was going to have to fall off. Virginia losing to Carolina in the semifinals ACC tournament, I think that dropped him off, along with Justin Anderson, his injury with the broken finger, and then coming back from an appendectomy. His health is a major concern after only playing 26 minutes in 2 games and scoring 0 points.
Right. See, I think UVA actually should have gotten that number one seed. They had one less loss than Duke. They won the conference regular season tournament, and all their losses were to good teams, Louisville, Duke, and Carolina. Duke had some worse losses that by bigger margins and more of them.
Who should they have replaced?
Duke.
Duke?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think winning the conference takes precedent over the head-to-head
Even
win.
over the head-to-head. Alex?
Yeah, I also agree with Josh, actually. I think Duke, you look at a team, when they don't win their conference tournament or their regular season conference tournament, there's just not much to work off of there because most of the other guys have proven themselves in that standard.
I like Duke as the number one seed. They're the third most efficient offense behind Wisconsin and Notre Dame, and they were 11-3 against RPI top 20 or top 50, and they had the best RPI for road and neutral games. So this shows this is a team that can win on the road, which helps in the tournament because in the tournament you don't have many home games except their first game in Charlotte.
Yeah, and you look at another number one seed. They won at Wisconsin. They won at UVA in impressive fashion. And I'm a firm believer that a conference title of the regular season is better than a conference tournament. But an unbalanced schedule that they have in the ACC where they had to play Carolina twice. And they lost to Miami in convincing fashion at home, but still they had better wins than UVA had throughout the course of the season.
And I don't think there's much debate.
UVA's losses were by a combined 10 points, though. Duke had several losses that were blowouts.
I think ultimately the loss of Justin Anderson for a little while.
Yeah, Justin Anderson really hurt.
Yeah, and he didn't look impressive in the ACC.
There's no doubt that the Justin Anderson, the pinky and then the appendectomy. But what about Villanova? Do we firmly believe that they are a number one seed?
Absolutely. They ran through the Big East, had 0 issues. They had that 120-point loss on the road at Georgetown. But I think Villanova, having the returning guys that they have, this is a
And when they lost by 20 to Georgetown, they rebounded, and 3 weeks later they beat Georgetown. So it shows it's a team that can rebound from a bad loss.
Against the RPI top 50. That's insane. This team got scores of good wins in an underrated Big East.
Yeah, and I think when people complain about competition or schedule, you play who you play, and they only lost 2 games. They didn't really lose at all.
Right.
They proved themselves, I think, as a one seed for sure.
Well, as much as there's debate about the number one seeds this year, there's usually even more controversy with the last 4 teams in. But since the tournament got expanded to 68 teams, we haven't really seen that as much, which finally, we finally get that breathing point like, oh, this team didn't get in. But did they get the last 4 teams right? BYU, Dayton, Boise State, and Ole Miss. Those teams will start playing tonight.
Well, I'm mystified why Dayton was the last team in the field. They finished second in the A-10 and then lost in the championship game to VCU. So the committee said, had UConn beaten SMU and won the American Conference, they would have been out.
Right.
Which is
crazy.
ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah,
Dayton
I
was a
don't like
great
that
team
at all.
all season long, and UConn would have taken their spot, whether teams like UCLA got in. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't get it. I think Temple and Colorado State
Both had
should have
good
been.
cases.
I would have kicked Ole Miss and UCLA out.
Yeah. You look at Colorado State, they were 1 win away from being the team with the most wins not to make a tourney since 1985. They had the 28th ranked RPI. So the players and coaches were devastated when they didn't make it because they were convinced. They sat one of their star players the game before because they thought they were going to make it in. Now they're devastated.
And Temple, this team played a lot better when they had everybody healthy. Jesse Morgan missed 9 or 10 games this year. They had a bunch of other guys that dealt with some more minor injuries.
We'll get to the last 4 out in just a second, but real quickly with Ole Miss, the SEC got, honestly, in my opinion, a lot more teams in than I expected them to. Because all season long, we knew it was just Kentucky. And Arkansas is still ranked. They're a solid team with Bobby Portis. But why so many SEC teams? What is the committee's reasoning behind that?
I have no idea. I don't understand.
Yeah.
The SEC is a joke of a conference.
Yeah.
Outside of Kentucky and Arkansas is still miles behind the Wildcats.
I think they're looking more at money because you look at it, SEC, down south, big schools, big money. I mean, they're looking at viewers here.
Well, this isn't college football. That's not what it should be. It should be about
blows
local
my
residents.
mind that it blows my mind that Ole Miss made it because yes, they came close to beating Kentucky in Rupp Arena, but after that they went 11-7 in the SEC and they were upset by South Carolina in the tournament. They do have the they are top 25 in defensive efficiency, but anything other than that, they don't really stand out to me as a team.
And they
that
only
can
have 3 top 50 wins.
Right.
Yeah, they were swept by LSU, and yes, they have wins against Oregon, and they
And
beat
Cincinnati.
Arkansas, and Coastal Carolina is a team in the field. They have
Yeah.
wins there,
Yeah.
but I don't understand why the SEC got such a break.
Ole Miss, Georgia, LSU, all getting in there. But let's move on to the last 4 teams out. These are going to be the top seeds in the NIT coming up. We have Temple, Colorado State, Richmond, and Old Dominion, a couple of Virginia teams right there. Do you think any of those teams had a real case to be into the tournament over some other teams?
Well, I said we talked about Colorado State earlier.
Yeah.
I already had
Yeah.
an RPI of 30. It's interesting to me that Richmond was right there because they played pretty well against VCU in the quarterfinals on Friday in the A-10 tournament. And had they maybe gotten that game and then possibly beaten Davis the next day, they could have been in the field, and maybe if Dayton could have been out.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think Temple also had a case. Wyoming was kind of the bid stealer there, winning the Mountain West, and they needed to beat SMU probably 1 out of those 3 times to get in, but they had a case as well.
And yeah, they were a
think
top 35 RPI team
Right.
as well. I mean, the committee said this year they looked at some of the more new metrics this year, like KenPom and the BPI.
Yeah.
BPI,
But and that kind of hurt Temple and Colorado State.
yeah, the BPI.
Because teams like UCLA and Ole Miss had better profiles.
Alex,
there.
what do you think about the last 4 out?
Yeah, I definitely think Temple was a team that could have broken in there, and it's unfortunate that they didn't do better in their tournament.
It
but
seemed like all the way down the stretch, the Temple was going to make it until this
Yeah.
last week. They just fell out of it. What was the key? Why did that happen?
Just losses in the tournament. I mean,
Wyoming. too.
Wyoming, the big
Yeah,
stealer.
Wyoming.
Well, see, the
Classic
thing
bid.
about Wyoming was Larry Vance Jr., when they were playing, they were a pretty good team. They
Yeah.
were looking like they
Yeah.
could have either won the Mountain West regular season or could have fought for that large bid. But when he goes down with mononucleosis, then they have an issue. And they were always a good team all season long, and it just came right at the perfect time. So it was not much of a bid thief because that was a team that had he been healthy, they could have been here in the first place.
yeah, I think you're right on the point with that. Larry Nance Jr. really came back and helped them overcome some of their earlier
Well,
weaknesses.
it's not all for naught for them. They'll be the top seeds in the NIT coming up, but it isn't always the last 4 teams in that keep those teams out. What teams were the biggest surprises for you, both this that they got in or also that what seed they got when they got into the tournament?
I want to talk about Georgetown getting a 4 seed. I think that's absolutely crazy
Yeah.
with the profile. I think UNI should have been higher seed. I think Wichita State should have also been
That's
higher
mine.
seeded.
Wichita State. I mean, Kansas is going to have a matchup most likely with Wichita State. The matchup that Wichita State has always been dying for, and I think having players like Ron Baker, Tequil Cotton, the way that Wichita State played this year, I don't think it was deserving of a 7 seed, something a little lower, like maybe a 5 or 4 seed.
Yeah, there was no
Yeah,
respect
they-
for the Mountain
they-
West when you talk about UNI and Wichita State. But the Big East, I mean, Georgetown being a 13-loss Xavier team as a 6 seed, it doesn't make sense to me. But obviously UCLA is a glaring team we look at. 20-13, they're 4-8 against the field. They got housed by Kentucky. Scored 7
absolutely
points in the
destroyed.
first
Yeah,
half.
they destroyed
Got
them.
killed by Utah. I don't understand what they saw. The selection committee chair, who is an AD at Utah State, said they saw the eye test and they were gaining steam. By winning 4 of their last 5 games against the bottom half of the Pac-12, that's gaining steam. That is just not a good
They're just
excuse,
doing
man.
what they were supposed to do. And honestly, I think the real highlight of their season, the most glaring point to me, is only losing to Arizona by 6. I mean, when it's a loss, I don't think there's much you can look to for a team like
And
that.
most
they
people-
had that bad losing streak near the beginning of conference play that was.
When most people think of UCLA, they think of the horrid first half against Kentucky. They don't think about how
Yeah.
good UCLA is actually as a team. So it blows my mind that they were even in the
And
tournament.
that eye test alone, I mean, only
That's
scoring
an eye
7
test.
points and you
Their
were
defense is
blue.
terrible.
that
like
eye test should
UCLA.
knock you out of the tournament.
It should.
UCLA has been one of the more controversial teams. You mentioned Georgetown earlier. I think they're the highest ranked, the highest seeded team outside Villanova from the Big East Conference. Do you think any of that had to do with it? Maybe an overratingness of the Big East?
I mean, I don't see why Butler would not be up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Georgetown, they had a better season, but Maryland is also in the 4 line, which makes no sense how a Maryland team who was second behind Wisconsin in the Big Ten would be on the same line as a Georgetown.
And was also a top 15 RPI team, no real bad losses. I think maybe Baylor should have been knocked down to the 4 line and Maryland put up on that 3.
And you see in what, Utah's a 5?
Yeah.
Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
yeah. Utah definitely got a bigger bump than I had expected there.
All right, well, now we're down with the initial bracket selection process that has already taken place. We are all ready to go through now picking our brackets. So coming up next, we will go over the entire bracket, at each individual matchup, talk a little bit about that, but stay tuned to get help with those brackets.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi! God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good. Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
RBIs and 36 homers. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it deep back into the stands.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
I know, 2 seconds. Hang on, just stand still. Stand still. 1 second. Okay, go, go, go. Boys, hang on, boys.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
We are back, and now we will fully dive into the 64-team bracket and look at each individual matchup. Guys, we're going to start in the Midwest and work our way through. Julian, starting with Kentucky, Manhattan, or Hampton, whichever one wins.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that this might be one of the record lines that will be set for whoever wins the Hampton-Manhattan game tonight against Kentucky, Kentucky's size. Manhattan, yeah, they were in the tournament last year. Great job by Steve Mausiello, who had a lot of issues going to South Florida, but not having a degree, now ending back in Manhattan, getting back to the tournament. But Kentucky, I mean, it should be
Kentucky.
Josh, Cincinnati, Purdue.
I think this is an interesting matchup between two teams that are very physical, very defensive-minded. Cincinnati a little bit smaller, going up against the twin 7-footers of A.J. Hammonds and Isaac Hass in Purdue.
Got to watch out for A.J. Hammonds. He had a great Big Ten tournament. Josh, Alex, we're looking at West Virginia, Buffalo. This is the first 5-12 matchup.
Yeah. A lot of people, 5-12 matchups historically, everyone's looking for the upset here. I think, you look at West Virginia, one of the top teams in the nation in forcing turnovers, and they have Juwan Staten coming back from injury. I just don't think Buffalo is going to be able to keep up with them.
They're definitely turning up the heat on Buffalo. Connor, we're looking at Maryland Valparaiso, another popular upset pick. What do you have?
Yeah, there are a lot of popular 4-13 upset picks, but I don't think this is the one. Maryland's got the big three in Des Wells, Melo Trimble, and Jake Lehman, and I think they're going to overwhelm possibly the sneaky Crusaders team, but never count out the Crusaders, especially with a 4-13 matchup.
Never count out Bryce Drew in the NCAA tournament,
Right,
right?
right.
Someone's learned that lesson before. Butler, Texas. This is sneaky. A lot of people, this might be a trap game for some people.
Yeah, no, Texas is a team where a lot of people were not happy about them getting into the tournament, but they've played well. They barely lost Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. Jonathan Holmes is playing a lot better. Isaiah Taylor's kind of got his footing back under him. Butler's a very physical team, great rebounding team. Should be a tough matchup. Either way, it could go either way, 50-50 in this game.
ACC tournament champions Notre Dame versus the CAA champions Northeastern. Break down that matchup.
Notre Dame has the second most efficient offense in the nation. They spread the floor incredibly well. They do have a thin rotation, but in a 3-14 matchup, it really shouldn't matter that they only go 7 deep.
Jerry and Grant could power them all the way through that. Wichita State, Indiana, interesting matchup here.
Yeah, you're looking at two teams that are both heavily dependent on their guard play and depth. I think ultimately that defense of Wichita State and Ron Baker will carry them. But, Indiana, Tom Crean, great coach, and I think they could keep it close for sure.
All right, Connor, no one really knows what to make of Kansas this year, but they got the 2 seed against New Mexico State in the first round.
Exactly. Kansas has loads of talent, but they've dealt with inconsistencies throughout the year. The big point of this matchup is whether Kansas will actually step up, and if one of their big pro-level players will step up, maybe a Perry Ellis or Wayne Selden Jr. or someone like that. If they are consistent in this game, they will move on, but if not, they could be in trouble.
Cliff Alexander will also be out for this tournament game. He'll actually be out for the rest of the tournament, however far they advance. Moving down to the West now, Wisconsin got that number 1 seed after an impressive run to end the season. They'll face Coastal Carolina in the first match.
Hey, don't count out Cliff Ellis and his team. This is a 4th team he's brought to the NCAA tournament. Coastal Carolina was here last year as a 16 seed against Virginia. They played him tough. Coastal, not a team to overlook.
Almost knocked off the Wahoos last year. Oregon, Oklahoma State.
Another interesting matchup, Oregon led by Joseph Young, the Pac-12 Player of the Year, going up against a really nice Oklahoma State backcourt, Phil Forte and Anthony Hickey, but they're both a little bit smaller than him. Oregon, not a real big front line, but Oklahoma State doesn't really have that either, so intriguing matchup.
It'll be interesting to see the guard offense in this game. Alex, looking at Arkansas-Wofford, another 5-12 game.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can see it too well here either. Arkansas, you look at it, they were dominant at times in SEC play. They're really good defensively and down low and powered on the rebound, but we'll see if they can.
Bobby Portis, SEC Player of the Year. North Carolina versus Harvard. You got the Brains versus. Did they go to class or not?
Exactly. This might be a trap game for UNC. Harvard's won their past 2 NCAA tournament first-round games, and the matchup here is point guards, Siani Chambers versus Marcus Page. Whoever wins that battle, I think, gives their team that extra step needed to win their first game.
And let's not forget, both schools have had academic scandals.
There we go.
Point out the
all right.
That's true.
Next game, Xavier versus the winner of Mississippi, BYU.
Like I said earlier, I don't understand how Xavier has a 6th seed, but BYU, I think, will probably get past Ole Miss and Kyle Collinsworth, Mr. Triple-Double, and Tyler Haws, one of the best scorers in the NCAA past 3 years. BYU could be a sleeper pick to get to the Sweet 16.
Never seen a guy put up triple-doubles like Kyle Collinsworth. Looking at Baylor versus Georgia State, this is a sneaky game right here.
I think Georgia State is the strongest of the 14 seeds. They've got a great backcourt, Ryan Harrow, RJ Hunter, Kevin Ware of Louisville fame. But their problem is they're not a great rebounding team, so that'll be interesting going against a physically dominant Baylor team with Rico Gathers on the glass.
Yeah, you got a strong backcourt versus a strong front court. Looking at VCU versus Ohio State, an interesting matchup. You got some point guards for Ohio State, but a lot of pressure from VCU.
Yeah, VCU is definitely going to bring the pressure on D'Angelo Russell. We'll see if the freshman can keep up with them because they haven't done the best job maximizing his talent all season long, but I think ultimately it'll be a nail-biter for sure.
The Arizona Wildcats finished off the Pac-12. Now they come in here, the 2 seed against Texas Southern.
Yeah, I think Arizona's looking to make a deep run in this tourney, and I think a lot of people expect them to. So the thing you want to look for in this matchup is how Stanley Johnson comes out for his first actual tournament. I think he's going to be hungry to make an impression on the national stage, so that's one thing to look for.
Definitely one of those kids. He's an Iron Man. He'll come out and play every game. Flipping over to the other side, looking at the East region, the number 1 seed, Villanova versus In-State Lafayette.
Yeah, you cannot overlook the Leopards from Eastern Pennsylvania. But Villanova, they have grown men right now. They have played in 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments. They're looking to make a run. Lafayette might hang in there for the first half. I don't see them hanging in there very long.
And I would say the toughest 8-9 game, NC State versus LSU, toughest one to pick.
This is probably my favorite matchup in the entire tournament. You've got NC State's great shooting backcourt, and LSU's got a backcourt that has guys that can shoot as well, but they have that big front court match going against a deeper but not led by any one specific player front court. And NC State, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Jarrell Martin and Jordan Mickey.
Absolutely. NC State, LSU, you never know which one you're going to get between those two. Here we go, another 5-12, Northern Iowa, Wyoming. We talked about Wyoming.
Yeah, I really like this matchup. You look at Northern Iowa, Wyoming, they're 2 teams that play very similar to each other, like to slow the game down and get it to their big men, Larry Nance Jr. and Seth Tuttle. It'll be a great one to watch.
Northern Iowa, we know they've been able to, make some noise in the tournament in recent years. Just specifically last year, they've knocked off Kansas a while back. Looking at Louisville, UC Irvine, Louisville kind of backs themselves into the tournament.
Right, and I think that Montrezl Harrell may be looking a little forward towards playing UNI and playing Seth Tuttle with that big matchup. So he has to make sure he keeps his composure, and Louisville in general plays well because they don't want to lose to UC Irvine and not get that chance to play possibly Northern Iowa.
We'll talk about Montrezl Harrell a little bit later, but Harrell's a guy that's kind of struggled in ACC play this year.
Right.
Offensively, defensively, we thought he was going to take off this year. Now he plays Seth Tuttle, a guy who's absolutely taken off this year for Northern Iowa. What do you think about that matchup specifically?
I think that's a matchup that everyone's going to want to watch. I mean, Seth Tuttle is this guy from a smaller school who's made big waves with 20-plus points per game, and then you have Montrezl Harrell, who was so good years before and now has struggled a little bit in ACC play. So we'll see how the big school, small school, big man matchup plays out.
You can't look past UC Irvine. They have the tallest player in the field, Mamadou Njai, at 7'6".
Right, so they can't look past
And they play that zone, which can force a
Louisville has had issues scoring of late, and especially with the loss of Chris Jones.
A lot of people talk about UC Irvine. Don't sleep on them. Providence, Boise State / Dayton. Obviously, Dayton's got that home court advantage in the first round. Do we think Dayton or Boise State?
Not just the first round. Say they win that game, they only have to go to Columbus. They could potentially have 3 home games, and Dayton fans feel like they've been slighted. Now, Providence, LaDontae Hinton has been a great scorer this year.
Right.
But I think I'm going to have Dayton getting past Boise. They're 16-0 at home right now, and who knows? Playing in Columbus would be another big Dayton crowd. They could give the Friars some issues.
Chris Dunn's a guy that's not being talked a lot about right now, but he's probably the hottest point guard in the country right now. He had a lot of shoulder injuries in the past, but he's now recovered from that, and I would say he's probably one of the best point guards in the country.
Top in the nation in assist rate. Yeah, he's been waiting to play. He's been one of their heralded 2012 class back then. Hasn't really gotten a chance to shine up until this year, and I think he can do big things.
We already knew.
Don't discount Boise against that Providence team, though. Derek Marks can be the catalyst for an upset there as well.
Oklahoma, Albany. We've all seen the shot Albany made earlier with Hooley, but can they cause any noise in this Oklahoma matchup?
I think Oklahoma, their big problem is that they're not that deep a team, and in a first-round matchup, it shouldn't really matter that much. Their front court, actually their entire team is just so balanced. They can get scoring from all different players, so I don't really think it's an issue here.
And I don't think Oklahoma will look past after losing to North Dakota State, a 12 seed last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And not a team that you would often expect to see on the 7 line, but Michigan State versus Georgia. We talked about Georgia, maybe a little controversial coming into the tournament, that they are in the tournament, but Michigan State's on that 7 line right there. What do we see from the Spartans?
Yeah, I think they're going to be ready. Tom Izzo every year has them ready for the tournament, and no matter what went on during the regular season, I think they're really starting to figure out their game plan with Denzel Valentine and Greendale, and then you have Greendale. I think they could be in for a deep run this year.
Could we see them as a possible Final Four dark horse in this region?
Yes.
It's possible. Sure.
I'm not buying it.
With Tom Izzo, you can't count on, but Georgia, they need to get healthy, but inside, with Nemanja Jurisic and Marcus Thornton, they could cause some issues for the Spartans, who really don't have that much depth inside.
Yeah.
And this could possibly lead into another big matchup. The Virginia Cavaliers, will play Belmont in the first round, but again, if we get to that second round between Virginia and Michigan State, that was a huge matchup last year, very controversial at the end, maybe a push off a foul. But we look at this matchup, Virginia versus Belmont. You can't sleep on Rick Byrd.
This is kind of like the Louisville-UC Irvine thing. You can't look past Belmont just to get to Michigan State. You have to realize that Belmont has upset potential wherever they walk when they beat Duke a couple years back. And Virginia, it's always a close game with Virginia. The way they play defense and the way they score, and with Justin Anderson not back healthy, Virginia needs to make a strong statement so they can go into that Michigan State game feeling good about themselves.
Tempo, always the key in a game against the Cavaliers.
Right.
Did you have anything to add on?
I would say, Belmont, every year when they're in the tournament, seems like to be that sexy pick to get the upset.
Right.
And right now, Virginia, yeah, they're struggling. They can't really score that well. Justin Harrison, how's he going to be? Belmont might be a sneaky upset there at the 2:15 game. And also, they had the guy who hit the shot against Murray State, former Virginia player.
And Belmont's offense always shows up that Rick Byrd coaches them up so well. They shoot a lot of threes. Can be a problem for teams looking to pull an upset.
Moving down to the south, the Duke Blue Devils get the #1 seed there. They'll play either North Florida or Robert Morris in the second round. The Duke Blue Devils, what do we see out of them?
Well, I think the Ospreys are going to miss their lazy river they have down there in Jacksonville, one of the big recruiting tools. But that's about the only positive thing I can say about whoever wins to get Bobby Morris and them. Because Duke playing in Charlotte, they're probably going to run through either team they play.
Right.
Looking at the San Diego State-St. John's matchup, a big issue for St. John's right here is they're out a center right now, and they're facing one of the best rebounding teams in the country in San Diego State. Can they survive?
Yeah, no Chris Abekpa, and this one's tough. He's one of the best rim protectors in the country. San Diego State is a team that's not great offensively, but one of the elite defenses. The country, very physical, grinded-out team. Holds teams to under 55 points a game.
I mean, you look at this team, Winston Shepard, Dwayne Poley, J.J. O'Brien.
Malik Pope coming on.
Malik Pope, all athletic defenders. They can all defend almost all 5 positions. We look at Utah and Stephen F. Austin. Is this the 5-12?
It could be. Stephen F. Austin, they took down VCU last year in that wonderful game. And Utah, they do have a little bit of trouble rebounding the basketball and as far as defensive field goal percentage goes. But I think DeLon Wright could carry them, but I think we could see another classic.
Well, we look at Stephen F. Austin, and they return basically the same core that they had last year that pulled off the upset, and they made a Sweet 16 run. But Utah, DeLon Wright, but also don't forget Jacob Podol, the big freshman down low. He's been great for them this year. Looking at Georgetown, Eastern Washington, this is the controversial team. Are they really a 4 seed?
No, this is why I pick Eastern Washington to win. Georgetown has lost their last 4 tournament games to double-digit seeds, and Tyler Harvey, the lead leader in scoring, wants to prove himself on a national stage. I pick Eastern Washington in this one just because I don't believe that Georgetown is as good of a team as their seed says.
I got to disagree. I think this is a different Georgetown team. When you have Devontae Smith-Rivera, DSR, playing the way he's been playing, you have Trawick. I think that, and big Josh Smith, former UCLA transfer.
He's got to go to say on
I don't see Eastern Washington be able to match up with them. Yeah, Tyler Harvey's gotten comparisons to Steph Curry, who could be the MVP in the NBA this year. But I know they won in Bloomington against an Indiana team that's been up and down, but I just think it's a different Georgetown team.
And Eastern Washington, really not a great defensive team at all. That's going to be their big problem.
Yeah, and Georgetown very well balanced, great defensively. They're not like the past years, I don't think.
Moving on to the next matchup, SMU. They won. They kept the defending national champions out of the NCAA tournament. Now they take on UCLA, the most controversial team in the NCAA tournament. Julian, tell me about this matchup.
I mean, you said UCLA should not be in here, but I hope that Nick Moore and Marcus Kennedy, after having disappointed of not making the tournament last year, I think this SMU team, coached by Larry Brown, should have a lot to prove in this tournament. Winning the AAC, they would probably want to make a run this year, and I think getting UCLA, they have the potential to make a run.
Yeah. Do we all think UCLA, now that they're in the tournament, can they actually make a run?
They might have a fire under.
Possible.
They might have a fire under them for everyone giving them, some guff for not being a qualified team or something. But SMU was very confident and very composed when UConn made that comeback in the title game. So I think SMU will take care of them, but UCLA will definitely keep it interesting.
UCLA's big problem is going to be the lack of depth, but they have guys like Bryce Alford, Norman Powell that can make shots, and Kevon Looney. Denley's a fantastic rebounder.
That backcourt can get hot very quickly.
Yeah, and the tournament loves mediocre regular season teams making runs. Look at last year, UConn, mediocre, made a
VCU
run.
in 2011.
VCU. They have mediocre teams, love getting in the tournament, making runs. UCLA can't count them out.
A popular pick to come into the Sweet 16 now, or even the Elite 8, maybe even the Final Four. Iowa State taking on UAB in the first round. Georges Niang, he's the player to watch there, right?
He is, but I'm more interested to see how Iowa State comes out and defends. That's their big issue. This year, Jameel McKay was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and he's kind of settled their issues defending around the rim. But the rest of the team still does have some issues. I want to see that play out in the first game before we go calling them for the Final Four.
Any chances UAB can make some noise?
No, but you got to give credit to Jared Haas, a former Roy Williams assistant at Carolina's second year, getting UAB to the conference the NCAA tournament, even though the conference tournament was played in Birmingham.
Major improvement, and maybe it takes some of the attention off the football team there, or lack thereof football team in Birmingham. Moving on, Iowa-Davidson. We saw Iowa earlier in the week. Just double check that Steph Curry is still not on this roster. Iowa versus Davidson, what do we have?
Yeah, and the real funny thing about that is this is definitely the best team Davidson's had since that Steph Curry run. I mean, they've got a killer four-guard lineup, the small ball. I think it could prove too much for Iowa in the end.
Davidson, always a tough out in the NCAA tournament. And then we finally have Gonzaga versus North Dakota State. Tell me about the Zags. Is this finally, do they break that pressure to finally get to the Final Four?
You know, it's possible, but again, this is a game you can't look past. North Dakota State beat Oklahoma, the Sooners, so I'm going to talk about later, last year. And so North Dakota State is going to be looking to make more noise in the tournament, but I think Kyle Wilcher and Kevin Pangos will prove that they are a elite duo.
Definitely cannot look past the Bison. You got Lawrence Alexander, the point guard, who played on that team last year, kind of taking over for Taylor Braun as being the star of this team. Carlin Dupree, who had a great game against Oklahoma in the tournament, he's back. Watch out, North Dakota State.
Yeah. Well, that is the entire 64-team NCAA tournament bracket, and coming up next, our experts begin to make their picks in each region. But first, our very own Nick Markowitz took to Elon's campus to see what people thought about the NCAA tournament and got a variety of answers. Warning, they may not all be true.
Thanks, guys. Nick Markowitz here, 101 Sports man on the streets. I'm going to take to Elon's campus to ask the student population and some other choice members of the Elon campus about who they're going to pick for the tournament and why they're going to pick them. Let's go. Could you tell me your name and what year you are?
What?
What's your name and what year you are?
My name is Kayla Hammer, and I'm a junior.
I'm Maria Bresker, and I'm a senior.
My name is Maura Christian. I'm a freshman, or first year.
First year, classic.
Gary Grumbach, and I'm a junior.
My name is Peter Walp. I'm a senior here at Elon University.
My name is Valerie Rich. I'm a junior.
Hi, Valerie. Do you watch the March Madness games?
No.
My name is Tom Nelson, and I teach in the School of Communications.
I am Brian Mazurski, a senior.
My name is Kimberly Temlek. I'm a junior.
Now, most people say it's a science. How do you go about making your picks for who do you think is going to win?
Obviously, like, the cutest guys are going to be the best, so.
Usually the cuteness does correlate to performance on the court.
I guess I definitely look at the rankings, like the top seeds I probably would put like in the Final Four, but I guess like personal preferences I would like put over the seeds, I think.
Well, I'll go off their record and kind of how they are in their conference. Also, just some teams are historically good tournament teams. So there might be, like, say, Villanova. I know they were 1 seed this time, but let's say they were a lesser seed. Sometimes I'll pick them for an upset because they're just historically a good tournament team. And then, of course, I'll have Duke losing in the first round.
I try to do a little research on the internet. I also asked my boyfriend.
Go for all upsets, and that's the way to do it.
That is a solid technique.
When it comes to teams I don't really know, I kind of go off the mascots. I use mascots, absolutely, because, you know, if you're going at a Hurricane, for example, Miami, or Ohio State Buckeye, clearly the Hurricane's going to ruin the Buckeye.
9 times out of 10 at least.
I usually pick whatever team is higher ranked, then if it's 8-9, I pick the 9.
I pick the teams that I know, and then I just kind of guess on the other ones. Don't really do too much research. I just let it go through the heart.
Have you filled out a bracket, or do you plan on filling out a bracket this year?
I will be filling out a bracket, yeah.
I should, but I would not like to encourage you young folk to the gambling life. So, no, I have not.
Due to some academic violations, Northeastern's actually been removed from the tournament. Elon's been bumped up as the representative for the CAA. How do you feel about Elon making the tournament?
It's pretty exciting. I'll definitely watch some games.
How do you feel about the Phoenix making the tournament this year?
Are you serious?
True story.
Seriously?
We wouldn't lie to you on 101 Sports.
I'm very excited. This is a dream come true. Honestly, a dream come true.
Then how do you think about Elon's chances?
Is that a serious question?
No. So with Elon making the tournament as a 16 seed, are you feeling a lot of school spirit about your Elon Phoenix?
Yeah, I am really. I don't know. I just never thought Elon could do it, and I'm just really excited that Elon actually made the tournament for once.
Aren't we all?
I literally have never heard that, but good for Elon. That's great.
Go Phoenix. So Elon recently got a 16 seed as a bid. How do you feel about Phoenix making the tournament?
I feel great.
How far did you have Elon going?
Not very far.
This year, I think Kentucky's just too good.
I heard Duke's good, so maybe them.
Well, I was freshman year. I remember the game with Louisville, and they went into like quadruple overtime. So I'm rooting for them because they deserve to win after that really rough game back in freshman year.
I picked Arizona. I think that they have the best starting 5. UNC Tar Heels all the way.
I think it has to be Kentucky.
Kentucky.
I think Kentucky's going to take it.
Okay, we think so too. Pretty strong selection there.
They're really good.
and they have seniors. They don't have a bunch of that one-and-done stuff going on there.
I heard that the San Jose Anteaters are a strong contender this year. Do you have them going to your final based on mascots?
Yeah, and I have them actually playing the Elon Phoenix.
Yeah, we're all very excited about the Phoenix. How do you?
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Welcome back. Julian and Josh are here now to start making their picks. And we'll start with Julian in the Midwest region where the undefeated Kentucky Wildcats reside. Do they stay undefeated?
Yes.
All right.
They'll be in the Final Four. This is a
Take it
region
away.
that no one wanted to be in, except for there's 5 Indiana teams, which is kind of interesting I saw in the Midwest. But first game, Kentucky going to play the winner of Hampton and Manhattan, who plays tonight. Manhattan last year was in there. Emmy Andular, they bring back Aston Pankey. Hampton is a fourth straight year. They have a losing team in this NCAA tournament. I have Manhattan winning that game. Then obviously the line set for this game is going to probably be one of the highest lines in the history of the NCAA tournament. Kentucky absolutely smashes Manhattan. Now looking at the 8-9 game, you got Purdue and Cincinnati. It's going to be a highly contested defensive battle. Like A.J. Hammond from Purdue, he's gotten better each year. John Octius, who transferred in from Colorado State, has been a great player, great guard, perimeter threat for Purdue. I see the Boilermakers getting past and winning that game. Now then you look at the 5-12 game, West Virginia and Buffalo. This has been a sexy kind of upset because every year people look for the 5-12 for the upset. Buffalo coached by Bobby Hurley, who was a famous Duke player, played Christian Laettner. I like how the Buffaloes get up and down, but I don't think that they can contest with West Virginia. Jawan Staten, he should be back. Gary Brown, they've been both hurt. The pressure that Bobby Huggins' team's going to put on them is going to be way too much. Not going to be able to handle it. Looking at the 4-3 matchup, you have Maryland and you have Valparaiso. Valparaiso, Bryce Drew, he's coaching, but he's not playing. Alec Brown has been a great player this year. But the only issue is that they don't have a lot of tournament experience from the tournament team 2 years ago. Maryland, neither do they, but they have Melo Trimble, who's one of the best freshman point guards.
Some have called Alec Brown Kaminsky light.
Yeah, no, he's going to be a great player. He's only a sophomore, should be a great player, but Des Wells will power them through to the next round. Then looking at Butler, Texas. Texas, like I said earlier, is a team that maybe could sneak up on you. Isaiah Taylor's gotten better. Jonathan Holmes has been playing well down the stretch. But I just like the toughness of this Butler team. They missed Roosevelt Jones last year. We had the shoulder injury, and came back, and he's played a lot better this year. Kellen Dunham, knockdown shooter, and then former walk-on Alex Barlow.
They can overcome the height?
Yeah, they can easily. The way they played Carolina earlier, and the Bahamas out-rebounded them, were great team. Notre Dame, Northeastern. This could be a three-point shootout. Northeastern does not take a lot of them, but they hit them when they do. Scott Etherton is a 6'9" guy who can go inside and out. But Notre Dame, they don't have a lot of size. Zach August, 6'10", does present size for them. But Jarian Grant, who is going to guard Jarian Grant on this Northeastern team? Notre Dame doesn't really have to hit the three to make it to the next round, but they'll get through. Now, Wichita, Indiana. Indiana is a team that can absolutely fill it up from three. Yogi Ferrell is the only guy on the team who has tournament experience. But the law firm of Van Vliet, Cotton, and Baker are going to be way too much. Wichita State moves past. Now, 2-15 matchup. Kansas, this is not the vintage Kansas team that you've had in years past. That's why I have them getting upset.
Oh, no.
New Mexico State.
You just did it.
Yes.
You just did it.
Fourth straight year that the Aggies have gotten to the NCAA tournament. They lost in overtime to San Diego State last year when they seemed like they were out of it. I think with Daniel Mullings, a senior guard, and guys that have 6'9", 6'10", 6'10 guys, and Pascal Siakam and Remy Berry, I think New Mexico State pulls you upset. Jayhawks deprive us all of the Wichita-Kansas matchup
that would be incredible to see. Let's jump back up to round 3 now, Kentucky and Purdue.
Purdue, A.J. Hammonds, like I said earlier, is about 6'10", great post player, but going against Willie Cauley-Stein, Karl Anthony Towns, Marcus Lee, Dakari Johnson is going to be way too much for him. Kentucky's going to overpower him, move to the Sweet 16 in Cleveland. Now, West Virginia, Maryland. This is a game I've gone back and forth on. The pressure that West Virginia is going to put on them playing in the Big 12, they're battle tested. Maryland, they've improved by going to the Big 10. Melo Trimble, I think he might struggle in this game, but I think Des Wells, Jake Layman, and Mark Turgeon's coaching will be enough to get the Terrapins into the Sweet 16. Now, Butler, Notre Dame, and Indiana battle. Teams that they play every other year. Butler, tough team. I don't think they can hit the three enough to keep up Notre Dame. Jarian Grant, Alex Barlow, I think he can guard him, but not going to be able to guard him well enough.
Mm-hmm.
When you still have guys like Steve Asturia, Pat Connaughton, B.J. Beecham coming off the bench, and then Bonzi Colson has played well of late.
Colson was great in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, 14 first half points against Duke. They moved past. Now looking back, Wichita playing New Mexico State is going to take a lot. When you get a big upset, most of these times the team comes back and they get absolutely destroyed. I think that's what's going to happen. Wichita, the law firm, gets done with the experience that they have.
Going up, Kentucky now versus Maryland.
Kentucky and Maryland. Maryland is, I know, it sucks for them because theirs is a team that really should not have been as low as they were. A lot of projections had them as a 3 seed in a different region. But Kentucky, the guard play, Aaron Harrison, will be enough to get them past. But it will be closer than a lot of people think.
A lot of pressure.
Because Maryland just does not have the guys up front to compete with Kentucky. Now I'm looking at Notre Dame, Wichita. It should be another highly contested. This should be one of the best Sweet 16 matchups of the entire tournament. Like I said earlier, Notre Dame does not have to hit a ton of threes to be able to win. They went 2 for 8 against Duke in their semifinal win in the ACC tournament last weekend. Wichita, it would be great. I think the ultimate kind of revenge and karma for Kentucky to go undefeated and to get beaten by Wichita in the Elite Eight. But it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Notre Dame's going to get
Close.
past the Shockers into the Elite Eight.
That's probably just definitely something the committee was looking at with Wichita State being in the same bracket as Kentucky going on. But Josh, we go to a player in this Midwest region by the name of Jarian Grant, who last year got suspended and missed the NCAA tournament, but he's back and better this year. He was playing mostly 2-guard last year. Now he's mainly handling the ball for them. Talk about Jarian Grant.
Jarian Grant, he is the catalyst for this Notre Dame team, which has the second most efficient offense in the country, and he's highly effective as both a passer and a scorer. You see here that he's excellent in transition with fantastic court vision. You're going to see him make this dump off into the post in transition, and then his man finishes it. And right here, Notre Dame, they space the floor so well. They surround Jarian Grant with 4 of their 6 rotation players.
Makes it easy for him to get passes.
Yeah, no, but 4 of Notre Dame's 6 rotation players are 40% or better shooters from 3. So it's great. Right here, you see, great shooter from 3, not his strength. His strength is right here, finishing at the rim. He shoots 76% at the rim, which is insane, especially for a guard. So fantastic. And Demetrius Jackson was handling the ball in that play, who very much capable, which allows Jaren Grant to work off the ball. So that helps Notre Dame's offense. Right here, you see a staple of the Notre Dame offense. They put 3 guys on the opposite side of Jaren Grant. He curls in. You've got the modified pick and roll where Notre Dame runs a ton of pick and roll. They also run a ton of isolation for Jaren Grant. But he just is able to feed, get the catch and shoot, and his penetration collapses the defense. And overall, he's just a fantastic shot creator for both himself and other players. He's great in the pick and roll situations, as I talked about. And for a guy who handles the ball a lot and gets 6.6 assists a game, not a ton of turnovers, and that's why he has 127 offensive rating, one of the most efficient players in the nation.
Absolutely. He's been probably one of the most improved players in the country this past year. But now, that is the Midwest region. We covered the whole, all of Julian's picks. We covered Jaren Grant, probably the best player in the region. So now, Josh, take us through the West region. We got a lot of good teams here, including some good 1-2 seeds. Probably the best pairing right there.
Yeah, the Elite Eight matchup that I'm going to get to is so tough to pick.
All right, well, let's go through it first. Wisconsin, Coastal Carolina.
Look, Wisconsin's got the most efficient offense in the nation. Sam Decker, Nigel Hayes, Frank Kaminsky, Bronson Koenig. Their offense has actually improved without Traven Jackson. Defense is a different story, but Wisconsin gets it done. Oregon, Oklahoma State in the 8-9 game. As I said earlier, very intriguing matchup. And Joe Young, a little bit bigger than Oklahoma State's guards. Hickey and Phil Forte are only 5'11", and
whatever you want to say Phil Forte is.
Yeah, but I think Oregon beats them, that Oklahoma State doesn't have the size to make Oregon pay inside. In the 5-12 matchup, I'm going the upset here. I like Wofford in this game. I think they can control the tempo and slow Arkansas down. Arkansas is already a team that takes way more jump shots than they should, and in a slower paced game, they're going to take
Can
even
they
more.
stop Bobby Portis?
I think they can. I think they can, just by slowing the pace down and not letting him get the post-op opportunities that he's used to.
We got the next matchup, North Carolina versus Harvard.
I think Harvard, great defensive team, but they're not going to have enough offense to beat Carolina. And in the 6-11 game, BYU, I think they're going to win the play-in game, and then I think they beat Xavier. Their offense is too good. Kyle Collinsworth will be a matchup nightmare against Xavier.
Baylor, Georgia State, good matchup there.
Yeah, Baylor, I think they get it. Georgia State's not going to be able to rebound with them, and Rico Gathers is just going to power them through.
7-10 VCU versus Ohio State.
I've got Ohio State. VCU hasn't been the same without Briante Weber. Ohio State's got multiple ball handlers. They're getting through the press.
Looking at Arizona, Texas Southern to finish that out.
Texas Southern's the worst team in the field. Arizona's going through.
All right, let's jump back up. Wisconsin versus Oregon in your third round.
This is where the height hits Oregon. They have nobody that can deal with Frank Kaminsky. Wisconsin powers through.
All right, looking now to Wofford
and UNC. UNC is remarkably similar to Arkansas, but they're better offensively, defensively, and on their boards. That's going to get them through past Wofford.
All right, now going to BYU versus Baylor.
BYU not good enough on the defensive end. Baylor's got a top 20 offense and a top 40 defense. They're going through.
Ricardo Gathers getting through. And then going into your next matchup.
Arizona's got the players that can stop D'Angelo Russell. You saw what Rondé Hollis-Jefferson did on Kevin Pangas, did on DeLon Wright. He's going to do the same thing here.
All right, well, obviously the big name player from that region could possibly be the NCAA Player of the Year in Frank Kaminsky. No doubt, Wisconsin has had a solid season, but it's mostly due to Kaminsky. What makes Kaminsky such a good player?
Oh, you're talking about Joe College, Frank the Tank. What makes him a great player is that he's so versatile, has great footwork. You see the turn, spin around. He is unguardable. Last season in the NCAA tournament, he was amazing all season long. He came back, wanted to improve, and he's done that. Frank Kaminsky is the go-getter for Wisconsin. 7-footer, averaging 18 points per game. He can do everything. You see them taking it on the ground, on the floor, going right up, making plays. Kaminsky is just a great player, great rebounding. I mean, how many 7'10" big men can get out on a break and make a pass like this? That's just unbelievable.
Impressive, yeah.
And that's going to translate to the NBA, I think. He was fantastic in the Big Ten tournament this past weekend. look at him. He can go, just watches the offense, cuts to the hoop, throws it down. Kaminsky is one of the best players in the country. And then this is what I love about him most. He can step out, drain that three, shoots that three from 39% clip. He is one of the best players that we've seen in a very long time.
A very smart player indeed. Usually gets everything going well. We are halfway done with our experts' picks. Next up, Connor and Alex will pick the East and South regions. Don't go anywhere.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
I am now joined by Connor and Alex to get their picks for the East and South regions. We will start with Connor and the East, where Villanova has the top seed, but Virginia quietly in that bracket. Let's go to the Villanova-Lafayette matchup first.
Right. When it comes down to it, Villanova is one of the most complete teams in the tournament. I don't think they make their trip home just yet. Moving on to the 8 and 9 seed, this is a great matchup, but I think NC State has a slight advantage with the state guards versus LSU forwards, but NC State can win the big game. They're going to win it here. Northern Iowa against Wyoming. Seth Tuttle is going to shine on that national stage, and he's going to win the big man matchup with Larry Nance Jr. Now moving on, I have Louisville versus UC Irvine. Can't sleep on UC Irvine, but Pitino has his players firing on all cylinders defensively. Montrezl Harrell will stifle the Anteaters. Providence Dayton. Dayton beats Boise State in Dayton, but then LaDontae Henton and Chris Dunn overwhelm Jordan Seibert. Now moving on, Oklahoma versus Albany. Coach Lon Cougar has transformed this Oklahoma team into a top 5 defensive team. There is no first-round exit like last year. And then we go on. Michigan State is going to defeat Georgia because Tom Izzo is a magician come tournament time. He has his team ready to make another deep run, which I think they will. And then we move on to Virginia Belmont. Belmont has the upset potential, but it took a buzzer beater versus Murray State to give Belmont a bid. The buck stops here, and the Cavaliers move on.
Going out Villanova, NC State.
Right. We're moving on to the round of 32, where I have Villanova beating NC State. This is going to be much closer than people anticipate, but State will struggle to cause turnovers. They're one of the last teams in the league in terms of turnovers caused. I think Villanova moves on in this one. And then we go on to Northern Iowa, Louisville. Montrezl Harrell versus Seth Tuttle. And I think Northern Iowa is going to win because Louisville doesn't have a person who can shoot beyond the arc, and that's what you need to beat a team like Louisville. Now moving on, Oklahoma versus Providence. Oklahoma I'm pretty high on, and they play an up-tempo offense, and they're very battle-tested in their schedule, which is why I think they'll move on versus Providence. And then the last matchup, the Michigan State-Virginia game. I know you're not going to like it, but I'm picking Michigan State here.
Killing me,
this
Connor.
is a rematch that Sparty won in the Sweet 16 last year.
Barely.
Izzo has his team in peak tourney form. They went 4-1 in the past 5 games versus tournament teams, and don't mind that Wisconsin score because they did take Wisconsin to overtime in that game. Justin Anderson has not been as effective.
One of the best
for Virginia.
round 32 games. Going to the Sweet 16 now.
Right. Villanova, Northern Iowa. Unfortunately, Seth Tuttle is going to have to pack his bags to go home. Villanova is a team that's top 25 in three-point field goal percentage, and you're going to need another team that can shoot the lights out behind the arc to beat Northern Iowa. And then you move on, Oklahoma, Michigan State. The Sooners move on here. Tom Izzo has worked all the magic out of his fingers that he possibly can, and the Sooners, Michigan State, struggles with complete starting fives. You look, they lost to Duke, Wisconsin, Maryland, all teams with strong starting fives. I think Oklahoma takes the crown here.
That'll move us on to a 1-3 matchup, Villanova-Oklahoma. But looking at one of the best players in the region, Louisville hasn't had the best season, but their star player, Montrezl Harrell, will surely try to make a difference in the NCAA tournament. Talk about Montrez for me.
Yeah, Montrez is going to do all he can. He's a freak of an athlete, as you see right there. He just, he's got a great basketball IQ. He knows where to go on the court, and he's always going to rise up for oops just like that one there. He's really a man's man down low. He just tends to physically overwhelm opponents, and you see that people just run out of the way, even at the thought of blocking him. And then you look at this here. He's even a quality passer out of the double teams and even off the inbounds pass right there. And then as you go on here, you see him working down low. I mean, he just knows where to be. Perfect cut there, and there you go, another oop. I mean, when you look at him, he knows where to go on the court, he knows his limitations, and he knows how to score.
Definitely will be a player to watch there. Let's go to the South region right now. Duke versus the winner of the North Florida Robert Morris game.
Yeah, I think Duke is really just going to make a statement here. Regardless of who wins this game, I think they're just going to be too much offensively. Then moving on to the next matchup here, we have San Diego State and St. John's. I'm going to go with San Diego State here. You look at them, their defense dominant as always. Even though the offense is inconsistent, I honestly don't think St. John's is going to get enough going or enough rebounds to beat them there. And then you look at Utah versus Stephen F. Austin. This is a hot upset pick for most, but I think Utah will be able to hold on against this here. It could be another great game late, decided late. And then you move on to Georgetown and Eastern Washington. A lot of people, look at Georgetown's past struggles in the first round of tournaments to double-digit seeds. I think they're able to finally end those struggles with this game here. They're not the same Georgetown of years past. Moving on to SMU and UCLA. Everyone looks down UCLA, probably the worst team in the tournament, but I think they could, show a little mettle there, but ultimately I think SMU will dominate them down low and come out with that game. Then you look at Iowa State and UAB. I just don't think UAB has any match for Iowa State's, terrific offense. Mm-hmm. Then going to the Davidson-Iowa game here, I think this is our first upset in the bracket.
First upset, no chalk.
Yep, very high-powered offense that Davidson has going there, their four-guard lineup. I don't think that Iowa will be able to keep up with that, Curry or no Curry. And then you go to Gonzaga and North Dakota State. North Dakota State played spoiler last year. I don't think they will again this year, but I think Gonzaga is going to pull out in a very tight game.
All right, let's go back up. Duke, San Diego State.
Yep. Duke, San Diego State, like I said, great defensive team, but they're just not going to be able to keep up with Jahlil Okafor, Tyus Jones, and Duke. They just won't be able to score enough points. Then Utah versus Georgetown. I'm going to go with Utah on this one. I don't think Georgetown is going to be it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I don't think Georgetown will be able to overcome DeLon Wright. Then looking at Iowa State and SMU. Once again, SMU just won't be able to keep up with the Cyclones' offense. And then here, another big upset. I'm going to keep Davidson keeping their turning run going over Gonzaga there because I honestly, I'm not a huge believer in Gonzaga. They'll spread the floor too well for them.
Going back up now to the Sweet 16, what are your picks there?
Yeah, then the Sweet 16, I'm going to go with Duke over Utah. I mean, it's just a high-powered offense, like I said, and even though Utah's defense is good, they won't be able to keep up with Duke either. And then I'm going to go with Iowa State over Davidson. Their magical run ends here, and the Cyclones move on to take.
Well, that'll take us to a Duke-Iowa State matchup. Duke is the top team in the region, and they have one of the top players in the country, in Jahlil Okafor. We'll see what he's able to do. But coming up next, our finalist, the thing you've finally been waiting for, our Final Four picks. That's coming up next on 101 Sports.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Our talent are all together again, and they are ready to reveal their Final Four picks for this year's NCAA tournament. We know how everyone picked up until now, but guys, let's get your Final Four picks. Julian, we'll start with you. Who's your Final Four?
Final Four is Kentucky, Wisconsin, Villanova, and Iowa State. I have the Badgers beating Kentucky, getting revenge from last year's Final Four matchups, and beating Iowa State in the national championship game. Wisconsin, Joe College, Frank Kaminsky gets done what he set out to do.
Josh?
I've got Kentucky, Arizona, Villanova, and Gonzaga. And then in the championship game, Kentucky over Gonzaga. Gonzaga's magical run for the first time in ages ends here. They just don't have the athleticism to keep up with that Kentucky team.
All right, another Kentucky.
Yep. So in my Final Four, I got Kentucky, Arizona, Villanova, and Iowa State. And I have the Wildcats winning it all, but not the ones everyone else expects. I got Arizona taking it. Only team I think can beat Kentucky, and I think they got too much offense for UVA, who I have them playing in the championship.
I got Kentucky, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, and Iowa State. Now, Kentucky and Wisconsin were ones that many people liked, and I think Kentucky moves on from there with their dominant play. Now, Oklahoma, Iowa State, I think Iowa State surprised people. They can score a lot, whereas a lot of teams struggle to score in this tournament. Iowa State blows by them to play Kentucky, and unfortunately, Kentucky will win and finish their undefeated season.
Well, definitely a good Final Four there. We'll look at what we have. Kentucky, Arizona. Either way, I'm hearing Wildcats right now. Is that correct?
Badgers.
And Badgers. Can't forget about
Don't count out Villanova in the Final Four, too. More Wildcats.
Villanova's, I'm done with them. So we know who is in the national championship game. We have those picks. Personally, I have Kentucky, Arizona, Virginia, and Duke. With Virginia topping the Wildcats, I think they can actually do it, that defense. I don't know, maybe I'm an optimist. But that concludes our one-on-one sports NCAA tournament bracket breakdown live show. From me and all our experts and the crew here at the show, good luck with your brackets. Happy March Madness, everyone.